Portland, Oregon, a city that sits nestled between rivers and mountains, where the skyline is framed by evergreens and the promise of something different lingers in the air. The Rose City, famous for its iconic bridges, world-class coffee, and neighborhoods that pulse with creativity and eccentric charm. It's a place where individuality is celebrated and community spirit runs deep. But beyond the food trucks, bustling markets, and postcard-perfect views, another Portland quietly exists, one that many try not to see. It's a city of blue tarps and makeshift shelters where thousands of people have no place to call home, forced to carve out an existence on the margins. Every night, people sleep under overpasses, in city parks, and along the banks of the Willamette River, seeking safety and shelter wherever they can find it. Their presence is a daily reminder, a visible sign of a crisis that's grown too big, too urgent, and too heartbreaking to ignore. How did this happen in a city that prides itself on compassion, activism, and progressive values? How did so many fall through the cracks? We came here to listen, not just to gather statistics, but to hear the real stories behind the numbers, to understand the faces and voices so often overlooked. The numbers are stark, but they don't capture the fear, the loss, or the rare moments of hope and resilience that shine through even in the darkest times. This isn't just a policy issue debated in city halls or on protest signs. It's a human crisis, unfolding on the streets every single day. Tonight, we'll introduce you to people living this reality, whose stories reveal the complexity and humanity behind the headlines. We'll explore the failures, economic, political, and social, that pushed them to the margins and the ripple effects felt throughout the city. And we'll meet those fighting to make a difference, volunteers, outreach workers, and neighbors who refuse to give up hope. This is not a comfortable story. It's a story that challenges us to look closer, to question, and to care. It's about the hidden struggles and quiet battles fought every day in the shadows of a beloved city. It's about the people left behind and the choices we all make, whether to see them or to look away. And it asks a question that echoes through every street and shelter. What is our responsibility to our neighbors? We met Sarah near the Burnside Bridge, a place where the city's bustle meets the quiet struggles of those living on the margins. She was sitting on a piece of cardboard, her entire life packed into just 2 worn backpacks, each one holding memories and necessities. At 34, Sarah has been homeless for just over a year that has felt like a lifetime, filled with uncertainty and fear. Not long ago, she was a barista, living in a small but cozy apartment with her beloved cat. She enjoyed simple pleasures, morning coffee, laughter with friends, and the comfort of her own space. But everything changed overnight. A sudden illness brought hospital bills she couldn't pay, which led to losing her job, and soon after, an eviction notice arrived. The safety net she thought she had simply vanished. With no family nearby to turn to, Sarah reached out to every resource she could find. She spent hours on the phone, waiting in lines, hoping for a spot in a shelter. But the waiting lists stretched for years, and the shelters often felt unsafe and overwhelming. So she ended up here, beneath the bridge, learning how to blend into the background, how to be invisible in a city that rarely looks her way. Survival became her full-time job, finding food at pantries, waiting for a meal at a soup kitchen, searching for a public restroom, and always keeping an eye out for danger. Each night, she searches for a safe place to sleep, never knowing if she'll be warm or left out in the cold. Most people pass by without a glance, or look at her with discomfort or even disgust, she told us. It's as if she's become invisible, a shadow on the sidewalk. They don't see the person she used to be, the woman who loved rainy days, curling up with a good book and watching the world go by from her window. The hardest part, she says, isn't the hunger or the cold. It's the loneliness, the feeling of being forgotten by the world. Despite everything, Sarah clings to her sense of self. She refuses to let her circumstances define her completely. She carries a tattered book of poetry, its pages worn from years of reading. It's a reminder of who she was and who she still hopes to become. Writing poetry helps her remember that she still has a voice, even when the world tries to silence her. Her dream is simple now: a door with a lock, a space of her own where she can feel safe, even if just for one night. That's all she wants. That's the dream she holds on to every day, no matter how distant it seems. But Sarah's story is not unique. There are so many others, each with their own story of loss and hope, living in tents and shelters across the city. This is the reality for thousands of people in Portland alone, and for countless more across the country. Homelessness can happen to anyone, your neighbor, your coworker, even someone you love. Sarah's story is a reminder that behind every face on the street, there's a life, a dream, and a hope for something better. Michael, now 58, is a veteran and a former carpenter who once took great pride in his work and his service. He spent most of his life in Portland, Oregon, quietly building a life for himself and his family. He built homes for others, raised a family, and never missed a mortgage payment. Michael was the kind of man neighbors relied on, always ready to lend a hand or offer advice. But then, everything changed. A workplace injury left him with chronic pain and mounting medical bills. The stress took its toll, leading to a divorce that drained his savings and left him emotionally shattered. Age and declining health made finding new work nearly impossible. Each job application was met with silence or polite rejection, and his skills seemed to count for less and less. He watched his life unravel, first the house, then the car, then everything else he'd worked so hard to build. The security he once provided for his family vanished almost overnight. Michael has been homeless for 3 years now, moving from shelter to street, always searching for a safe place to sleep. Navigating the system is overwhelming, especially for older adults who may not be familiar with the digital world or the endless paperwork required for assistance. Shelters are crowded, privacy is gone, and dignity is hard to hold on to. Nights are long, and hope can be hard to find. "I built homes. Out here, you're treated like you know nothing," he said, reflecting on the irony of his situation. Michael doesn't want pity. He wants understanding and a chance to be seen for who he truly is, not just his circumstances. He's found a small community on the streets. They share food, information, and protection. In this world, kindness is a lifeline, and trust is built one day at a time. "We're not bad people. We just ran out of luck," Michael says, echoing the feelings of many who have lost their homes. The cracks in the system are growing, and more people are falling through every day. The safety nets that once caught people like Michael are fraying. Michael's story is a warning. It could be anyone. No one is immune to a string of bad breaks or unexpected hardships. Homelessness is closer than we think. It's not just a distant problem. It's in our neighborhoods, on our streets, and affecting people we might know. It's not about bad choices. It's about bad breaks and how quickly life can change when support systems fail. And it's happening all around us, every single day. Michael's journey is just one of thousands, a reminder that compassion and action are needed now more than ever. Why is homelessness so visible in Portland? It's not one cause, but a perfect storm. Portland's reputation for affordability drew new residents and investment. The population boomed, but housing didn't keep up. There's a severe shortage of affordable rentals, only 28 for every 100 low-income households. Decades of policy choices, underinvestment in public housing, and restrictive zoning made things worse. Wages haven't kept up with costs. Minimum wage earners would need to work 70-plus hours a week for a modest apartment. One unexpected expense can push families over the edge. Oregon also has high rates of mental illness and addiction, but poor access to care. People self-medicate on the streets, making stability even harder. These crises are intertwined, each making the other worse. It's a vicious cycle, and it traps people in perpetual struggle. The numbers tell a harsh story. In the last decade, Portland's median rent has soared, far outpacing income. Thousands spend over 30%, even 50% of their income on rent. There's no room for emergencies, no savings, no safety net. Landlords, facing rising costs, raise rents and become more selective. A poor credit score or past eviction can lock people out of housing. Gentrification is changing neighborhoods. Affordable apartments are replaced by luxury condos. Long-term residents are displaced, losing their support networks and stability. New construction rarely serves low-income families. This isn't just economics, it's about community. Instability is especially hard on children, with lifelong effects. The crisis spans generations. It's not just about shelter for tonight. It's about breaking a cycle of poverty and instability. The future of the city is at stake, and the clock is ticking. Homelessness in Portland is inseparable from mental health and addiction. On the streets, the signs are everywhere: psychosis, drug use, trauma. These are public health emergencies, not moral failings. Oregon lacks psychiatric beds and treatment options. People in crisis end up in ERs or jail, then back on the street. Potent drugs like fentanyl have made things worse. People become more isolated, harder to reach. The need for the drug overrides everything else. Living on the streets is traumatic, causing or worsening mental illness. Even those who became homeless for economic reasons develop complex needs over time. It's a trap that deepens with every day outside. Solving it requires a health-based, comprehensive approach. Anything less is just a band-aid. Amid crisis, there are points of hope. Local groups like Blanchette House, Transition Projects, and Join provide meals, shelter, and dignity. Volunteers know guests by name, offering more than just food, a moment of connection. Outreach workers build trust, sometimes over months, as the first step back to housing. These organizations innovate, from traditional shelters to small private communities for those traumatized by street life. But resources are limited, and the need is overwhelming. For every person helped, more fall into homelessness. Staff and volunteers are dedicated, but exhausted. They're bailing out a sinking ship with a bucket. They need more support, financial, political, and community. The scale of the problem is immense, but these organizations prove that compassion can make a difference. They are the city's safety net, and they need all of us. Nonprofits address symptoms, not root causes. The city has invested millions in shelters and services, safe rest villages, alternative sites. These are positive steps, but not without controversy. NIMBYism, not in my backyard, slows progress as residents resist new shelters. There's debate: are we focusing too much on temporary fixes, not permanent solutions? Critics say money for shelters could build permanent housing or prevent homelessness in the first place. The challenge is staggering. The system is overwhelmed. More people become homeless than are housed. Frustration is growing among residents, leaders, and service providers. The current approach, while well-intentioned, isn't enough to turn the tide. Portland stands at a crossroads, beauty and struggle side by side. The roots of this crisis run deep. Solutions will take years. It will require courage, compassion, and a shift in priorities. Sarah and Michael's stories are not unique. They represent thousands. These are our neighbors, veterans, parents, workers. Their homelessness is not a personal failure, but a systemic one. We must do better. Change starts with understanding and empathy. The next time you see someone on the street, remember, they have a story. This conversation must continue. Stay informed, support organizations, demand more from leaders. We can be a community that cares for all its members. Thank you for watching.